back to the Creator Shelf. You're joining me on a bright, beautiful day in Brussels. So, without further ado, I'm going to jump straight in. We are in workshop 3 of the abundance workshops that I decided to do on the Creator Shelf. So, we had the first workshop on the 30th of April, and that was with the new moon in Taurus. Then we had workshop 2, which was last week, which was the first quarter moon. So we went from the new moon, where we set intentions, goals, affirmations, and so forth around issues of abundance. And then as we approached the first quarter, we started to note where we had resistance. And that was from like about the 8th of May onwards. That's when we had the first quarter moon. So we've been following the moon cycle as it goes to the sign of Taurus. And I picked the topic of abundance because specifically Taurus is to do with earth energies. So we are looking at energies around assets, ownership, the food that we eat, but also kind of like, that to do with our glow, our aesthetics. Taurus is ruled by Venus, so very much an energy to do with all those luxurious things that we benefit from in life. It's the second house in the astrological wheel. So just as a quick recap now, I'll go straight into that. The cards that we have been looking at from the tarot. So we have cards such as let me just get the right ones. The Five of Pentacles, which is to do with isolation, a feeling of scarcity, not being included, and therefore leading to poverty situations. So there's the Five of Pentacles there. We then have the Six of Pentacles, very much related to giving and receiving, to do with the flow of energy and the flow of monies and the flow of assets. Excuse me here, my little house panther wants to say hello. But it's really to do with the flow that we have and exchanges of wealth in that sense. And it doesn't always have to be with money. It has to do with also time, attention, just, really exchanging with the people around us. So there we go. There's the Six of Pentacles. And then we have the Seven of Pentacles. I know I have to bring you up here. And then we have the Seven of Pentacles. And then that's to do with the investments we've made, the work that we've put in, and kind of like getting to that point where it's just kind of like, I'm doing this work, but is it actually going to pay off? So the Seven of Pentacles is really a point where we are in full motion of creation and creating and building our products. But it kind of like is the moment also of questioning, am I in the right direction? So as I said in the first workshop and also again in the second workshops, these are cards that you can use to help you look at abundance issues, especially as we travel through Taurus, because these are the cards that relate to specifically the Taurus decans 1, 2, and 3 as we travel through the sign. So there you go. So those are some cards there. I also had suggested the Ace of Pentacles because of course the seed always holds a lot of potential for that suit. So the seed, the Ace of Pentacles holds a lot of potential when it comes to wealth and assets, but also luxuries and our beauty and so forth. And also I had suggested, of course, the Empress card. Some say this as pregnancy. I also see it as nurturing and being a vessel, and really just holding that energy of creation. Okay, and of course, as we have Taurus, I also had picked the Hierophant to do with higher education, learning and teaching, guidance and spiritual wisdom. Some people see this as more kind of like a pope, but of course you can reallocate this to another part of your society or a member of your society, which gives you that spiritual guidance and teachings and helps you through your spiritual path and journey. Okay, and then finally, I had also picked the Knight of Pentacles, but you can also have the King of Pentacles, very Taurian, the King of Pentacles as well. And these are to do with methodological, calm, focused approaches towards building our assets and wealth. Okay, so that's just a recap of the cards that we can use as we work through these energies. And I keep going back over the same cards because sometimes just having a few from the deck can actually lead to a lot of revelation and a lot of insight rather than dealing with like 10 or 20 cards and 30 and then just getting confused. So in the second workshop, I had explained, that how we can use the moon energies, and the deck that I've got here is the Stacey DeMarco Queen of the Moon Oracle. You can have another moon deck as you need or as you use. But again, we were moving from, you know, cycles of like new beginnings, there's a new moon, all the way through to, for example, issues around acceptance as we set our intentions, issues around growth, you know, where do we want to grow when it comes to our assets. Then we moved into the first quarter. So let me get the first quarter card out here, assessing. And that became kind of like, you know, the energies last week of looking at where is it that I have resistance? Where do I need to discern more? Where do I need to set boundaries and so forth? And one of the things that I had suggested was, you know, to allow this time for you to start noting down in your notebooks or wherever it's helpful for you, some of the things that you're coming across. So, you know, are we coming across fear, scarcity, and so forth? And one of the things that I did was I wrote down on one side of the page some key words. So this is like, I journaled before, so I won't show you all the journaling because there's a bit of writing there. But then I plucked out some key words such as vagueness and isolation and so forth that were really resonating for me as I had journaled. Like the same words kept coming up again and again. And the reason I put them on this side of the page was then I would kind of like look at kind of like, you know, if I had pulled that day or over the last few days an affirmation card, does it resonate? So, you know, around fear, I had words to do with integrity coming up. And I was looking at how, you know, I might be causing fear by sometimes speaking towards myself in a way which kind of like just, it's not helpful, it's detrimental. And it was just really strange, like this revelation coming like, oh, you know, this is to do with my words, and my words sometimes towards myself, you know, sometimes I believe that sometimes, you know, we can just say unkind words to ourselves in our own heads. And so I was noting things like that down. So you may have your own way of finding kind of like those things that resonate. But I kind of like then just did some quick writing. So the thing is that the next step is kind of like release. So full moons, and let me go now into the full moon energy of May. So let me talk a little bit about the full moon first of all, and the timing. So the full moon in Scorpio. So this is where it's kind of like interesting. So for those of you who follow astrology, you're probably very well aware of this, but basically we have the opposite signs. So the opposite to Taurus, 6 houses from 2, is going to be the 8th house. So while Taurus looks at assets, it looks at what we own, what we build, what we create, our luxuries, our beauty, Scorpio really is the house of other people's money and taxation and governments. It's to do with loss, it's to do with transformation, it's to do with death, and it's to do with, I can't put it another way, it's to do with sometimes the ugliness of life. I know it sounds really strange, but it is the opposite of beauty. It's to do with the ugliness of life. And by the way, I'm a Scorpio, so I fully own this house kind of thing, you know, I love it. But it really is kind of like the house where it's falling apart, like things are falling to pieces basically at this moment. And there is this, there's a slowness to it. It's not sudden in that sense. It's kind of like, you know, death. When we look at death in the traditional cards, let me see if I can pull it out from the I'm looking at the Greenwich Tarot, so let me just find it, if I can find it in the Greenwich Tarot. Here it is. Yeah. Okay, so when I look at death, and here it is, Lord of Shadows. If you look at most death cards, they reveal kind of like death in a very slow motion. It's all kind of like creepy, slow, plodding. You know, when you look at even the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith death card, it's kind of like that. And that's because of the fact that this is a death that we kind of like see coming. It's like, it's the end of something that's kind of like, yeah, I knew I had to let go of that basically. So the death card for me is not as scary as some other cards actually, to be honest with you, but it's more kind of like, you know, I know that I need to let go of this, and I know that it's going to happen. And interestingly, it's actually a few cards before the Devil cards. I always find that an interesting take with the Golden Dawn system. But when we look at death and we look at the Scorpio energies, and if you're ever interested, the Scorpio, the tarot cards that correspond to the Scorpio decans are the 5 of Cups. Here it's the 5 of Chalices. So it's to do with kind of like, you know, crying over spilt milk and not realizing that we haven't lost everything. It's also to do with the Six of Challenges. So it's Challenges, sorry. So it's to do with the Six of Cups, which is nostalgia and memories and that rose tinted glasses, but also just a lot of love, you know. And then on top of that, we have the Seven of Chances. So here, you know, Seven of Cups, decisions, and what is it that I'm picking for my journey ahead. And interestingly, what you can always do if you're that intrigued to do with the whole Taurus Scorpio axis is to take your 5, 6, and 7, of your cups, and then get your 5, 6, and 7 of your, let me see if I get them, of your pentacles, and kind of like just line them up with each other. So you get kind of like, how is the 5 of Cups and the 5 of Pentacles speaking to each other? Because here we have the Scorpio side and here we have the Taurian side. So they kind of like have a conversation. And you know, if we do this again in October, we will actually have the same set of cards coming up, but this time they're going to be in exchange. So the Scorpio full moon is really about releasing, and it's about releasing a lot of the emotions and a lot of that water energy around our abundance. Exactly, it's really interesting play of energies here going on. So as we look at this, you might want to do this as an exercise, or the other exercise you can always do, which you know is let me just put these the right way around. Another exercise you can always do is just similar to the ones we've been doing in the last few weeks. You get your moon cards. So we have the full moon, and the full moon in Scorpio, I keep forgetting to mention this. It's on the 16th of May, so in a couple of days, and it's around midnight Europe time. So if it's midnight Europe time, 6 hours back, so for those in the US, it's going to be 6 p.m. US Eastern time on Sunday already, actually. But for Europe, it's going to be Monday the 16th, because we are ahead in time at midnight, 12:14 CEST. So that's 11 o'clock at night in the UK. So you can Google this and find this for yourself, but I just thought I'd mention that exactly when is the full moon taking place. So what you could do is, starting off with your full moon cards, is kind of like look at, you know, issues to do with then over the next week or so to do with self-reflection. Where is it that we're holding on? This is very interesting. She's holding on here. She's holding on to her past. So telling, huh? That when we want to hold on to things, where is it that I need to balance things out? So this really speaks to that boundaries, and that it really speaks to that Six of Pentacles, right? It's really interesting. I get these cards out. Where is it that I need to balance out giving and taking? Perhaps, you know, sharing my wealth, but also being open to wealth. So that's an idea there of journaling. You can also look at beauty. Look at that beautiful card. You can also look at beauty. And you can also look at things like, you know, let me just get a card here to help reflect upon this one. You know, when we're feeling lost and isolated, maybe we need to remember also things like, you know, when is it that I need to show myself some self-love, and that I am beautiful inside and out, and so forth. So it's interesting how we can always match up issues that we're dealing with, fears that we might have, with some of the questions that are coming up from these moon energies around the full moon. And the, you know, another one here, let me see, power. Power is an interesting one. Maybe if I take the Knight of Pentacles here. Knight of Pentacles is very slow, methodological, very logical, very rational, very precise and thought through. Perhaps I want to look at power, how like I can be powerful if I actually just take it step by step, easy, you know, break it down, don't overwhelm myself when it comes to an abundance issue, maybe a business issue. So again, you know, these are just kind of like suggestions for yourself to do some prompt and journaling. And then finally, the suggestion that I was going to give is that you could take some, you can take a fresh new pack, alternatively, and for each one of these, draw a card as your antidote. So I'm going to pick a new tarot deck completely here. Here's the Tower of Mystical Moments. And again, similar to like last week, oh, look at that. The moon card's right at the top here. How beautiful, huh? But you could, and look at that, howling at the moon. You could even just put something like this on your altar space. But what you could do is for each one of your keywords, ask a fresh new deck to give you guidance. That's another activity. So for example, if it was fear, I've just picked something randomly. I've got 5 of Wands. Perhaps my fears are to do with a lot of internal arguments within myself and my creativity, and a lot of my fears to do with not being able to just put things into action, basically, because a lot of 5 of Wands energy is kind of like this feeling that I could do something, I could create something, but it's just not going anywhere, basically. Or you could, looking at the issue of balance. Let's get this moon card out again. You could ask your pack of cards here. I've pulled out the 9 of Wands. So maybe the balance I've got to do is between taking care of myself, protecting myself, standing my ground. She's got all these cuts coming through, but also just allow healing. I don't have to be so defensive. So maybe my balance is kind of like allowing new beginnings to come through, and letting go and releasing, because I don't have to always be so on the defense. Or another one could be, I'll just keep going here, self-reflection. And on the self-reflection, again, you can just pull a card for yourself. And for example here we have the Hanged Man. I mean, how perfect is that, right? I said self-reflection, which means taking time out, and here is surrender and seeing things from a different perspective. So I think that's like really, really perfect how these two just happen to line up as I was pulling these cards. So these are just examples, but the whole point of the moon energy is release. Ultimately, we want to release what's holding us back. So this is just a time for you to just say, okay. And I know a lot of people have said it, and I personally agree to it as well, that when I say something like just release, you're like, okay, that sounds easier than it's actually done. And my personal experience has been, yes, I find it difficult as well. So I personally see release and letting go as a process, and this is just the beginning of it. This is just showing that I do want to let go of things, and I'm willing to be open to that change kind of thing. It's not like pressurizing myself that, okay, I've let it go, I'm done, I'm moving on, because like sometimes that just, it doesn't jive that way, right? So it's allowing ourselves to go, okay, I need to take some time on this as well. So those are my suggestions around the full moon. And then finally, let me see if I just get back to my paper here before I forget. The other thing you can always do is draw an oracle card before I forget, So let me just get the Witch's Wisdom out, because I've been speaking about this deck. So, God, I love this deck actually. And this deck actually will go with a lot of the cards I've just been showing you. So if I pull something, you can always get out. Let's pull a card from here. You can always pull a card. Oh, wow, I just got the title card. Magic Circle and Protection. So if I was asking again about self-reflection, surrender, here's the Hanged Man. Perhaps part of it was also that I need to feel safe and protected. And the great thing is with oracle cards, and that was going to be part of my next suggestion, is you can always, look at a spell that you have. Because full moons are a great opportunity to allow ourselves to do spells. We can do spells anyway, but I don't always have the time to do something like that, but I always for me, I'm really a moon baby in that sense, in the sense that I take that spotlight on my life, right? Because full moon is basically a reflection of the sun's energy coming off the moon. That light, I can use it to target in on something. And so therefore, just lighting a candle, lighting a candle from, I like to light white candles, but find one that's right for you at this time of year. And then, you can just light a candle and recite what you need to in terms of letting go. Burning incense is also another one. What people do, I know it's in different parts of the world, is either we soak herbs basically and then release them to a river, and spices. And the other one I know in Indian culture we do is we actually burn herbs and spices on the stove. I don't recommend that if you're if your living area is not that safe, basically. But it's also a way of releasing that we do. But these are just suggestions of like also rituals you can do. So go with what you have, but this is an opportunity again to look back at your journal. That's the really important thing, and look at the issues that have been coming up again, because you'll have maybe 2 or 3 keywords, and you know from there, this is what I need to let go of. And it's going to take me time, but at least I've recognized it, right? Recognizing it is really important. So with that, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to pull out this card again because I just think it's so beautiful. I thought, wow. I'm going to stop there. I wish you all a wonderful next few days leading up to the full moon in Scorpio. It is the blood moon, you know, that's what it's known as well. It's just, it's always a time for me anyway to allow myself to be soaked in that moon energy, which I think is just gorgeous. So give yourself that time to just have a little bit of rest and reprieve. Gratitude lists are also really helpful this time of year, this time of month, sorry, because, you know, as we release things, there might be this feeling like, oh, you know, what am I going to be left with? So gratitude list is also helpful because it reminds us of all the things that we already have, right? So, wow, I'm just seeing like beautiful cards from here. Like, you know, I love this deck here. Like, you know, we are still in spring. We're still in spring, so just remember that, like, you know, we're still at a point in the year where we're soaking in these beautiful energies that are coming in, because, you know, within a few months we're going to be going back into that autumn period. And of course I know that for the southern hemisphere it's completely the other way around, so I'm sure you're working with the energies in a different format for that. So with that, I'm going to stop there. I wish you all a wonderful next few days, and I will see you all soon again. Take care now. Bye.